as the Will County Circuit Court Judge, presiding over the very, very important juvenile courts. So I'm sure that was an interesting job and one that was pretty fulfilling for him as well. And then his last tour of duty was with the regional counsel for Harris, the casino. As I indicated in my dealings with Tom is a very dedicated professional, and we're looking forward to another informative session with him today. So you can tell us a little bit about what's going to happen with downtown and maybe take some questions afterwards. So with that, Tom.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for everyone attending today. I want to welcome you all back from the NATO Summit. I saw a lot of you out in the streets yesterday protesting. Nothing like drooling with a big mask on over his face, chanting something. I don't know what it was. And for those of you who are Facebooking right now, I ate all my vegetables, only half the chicken, I skipped dessert. So I know everybody likes to talk about what they ate. What I want to talk about is downtown Joliet and whether it's worth saving. And I think you all know it's a rhetorical question. You know I'm going to come here and say yes, right? Well, I'm probably going to try to get some feedback from you and find out whether it really is worth saving or not. We spend a lot of time at the city working on downtown Joliet, and we frequently ask why. You know, because there seems to be a negative attitude in the community about downtown Joliet. We know we've got a lot of good things here, but the reality is it seems like we don't have a lot of help. It seems like we've got a lot of negativity about downtown Joliet. So that's why what I want to do is talk a little bit about it. I did receive a voicemail from a fellow attorney in town who said he'd like to answer the question, is downtown Joliet worth saving? His answer was, yes, save everything except City Hall. So I want to thank Alex Bonds for that answer. Long-term plans, you know, we really need to look at why we're doing this. This really isn't a nostalgic exercise. This isn't a walk down memory lane and say, wow, I wish we could go back to the Mode Theater or the Princess Theater or go to the favorite restaurant downtown. It really is turning downtown Joliet into an economic engine. We all know in an economy that we're in right now, we've all gone through a lot of pain. All of you, I'm looking at bankers, I'm looking at Speedway, I'm looking at people from Harris. A lot of you have made major changes in your operation just because of what's happened over the last 4 years. And I think when we look at it, we're at a point where we've invested a lot of time and planning into downtown. What I want to do is share a few thoughts with you about it. The question is it worth saving? And of course, the mile-high view of downtown Joliet. And I love flying over downtown Joliet. If you fly southwest, you'll see a lot of, their flight pattern comes over Joliet frequently. And what I love is you can see the ballpark a lot, and you can see the Chicagoland Speedway when you're flying by. But my favorite thing is to fly over and see Chicken and Spice. Seriously, you can see the orange roof from a mile high. So it really is cool. And I'm not picking on Chicken and Spice. It's the most successful business in downtown Joliet. And people from other communities come to downtown Joliet to pick up 100 chicken chunks for their graduation parties. We've got great buildings already. When people come in from the outside and talk to us, they say, you've got a real downtown. You've got other communities trying to create a downtown by building new buildings or trying to take a little asset and turn it into something it really isn't, but we've got the bones of a great downtown. Case in point, Rialto. I don't know if anybody saw Kathy Griffin last night. I heard she was good. But we get world-class entertainment in a world-class venue. And it's something that we take for granted, of course. And unfortunately, we spend a lot of time fighting about it. How do you fund it? Why is the city subsidizing it? Why doesn't the board do this? All kinds of things about the Rialto. And I think sometimes we need to take a step back and realize we truly have more than what is just the moniker of Jewel of Joliet. It really is an economic engine that makes our downtown great. The library, of course, and I know we have library board members present today. We need a new sign. Anybody agree with me on that? Yeah, that sign doesn't say Joliet Library to me. And any companies out there that want to be a benefactor for a new sign that matches a beautiful Daniel Burnham design library, please jump in. Of course, the Union Station, I apologize for the picture being a little fuzzy, but right now the picture is a little fuzzy at Union Station as to what we're going to do with it, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. Silver Cross Field, again, another key asset in downtown Joliet. Some towns dream of having ballparks, and they could never imagine putting this together, not having any bond indebtedness on a facility like this. There's no doubt there have been some challenges over the last few years with the management of the former team, but I tell you, tomorrow night, May 22nd, 7:05 p.m., first pitch. I hope you attend. If you can't make tomorrow night's game, go to a game, take your group, and please go. You're going to see a different attitude. The management has done a great job. I'm also showing this slide because this is one of our new digital signboards that we have been talking about for quite some time. It's located at Theodore and Larkin. And I know that many of you, when you heard us come up, or me come up, or Ben, hopefully Ben Benson for this one, come up with the idea, you thought it would ruin the countryside and the streetscape of Joliet, but that's what it looks like. And the next side, we have another sign on I-80 too, announcing public events. This one's at the I-80 bridge, as you probably recognize. And again, we use it a lot for advertising downtown activities. We've got key partners such as Harrah's, the Rialto, the Speedway, several others, Hollywood Casino, Vibe Park, several that have joined in with an advertising campaign. Joliet Municipal Building, for some reason that looks a lot cleaner than what it looks today, so I don't know what happened with that picture. Government buildings are very important to downtown Joliet. I'm going to talk a little bit about our relationship with the county. The good news is the city and the county have a great relationship. We've worked hard over the last 4 years to reestablish a rock-solid relationship. Larry Walsh and the county board have done a great job of recommitting themselves to downtown Joliet. I believe there was some chatter going on a few years ago about possibly moving the courthouse out of downtown Joliet, possibly moving administrative offices out of downtown Joliet. And I think over the last few years, we sense that there's been a strong commitment from Larry and his team and from the county board, Jim Eustace and his members, to reestablish the presence of the county in downtown Joliet. Other key assets in downtown, of course, the museum, Harrah's, beautiful Joliet Central High School, and of course, Chicken and Spice. And it's not even owned by a Greek. Figure that one out. We have some buildings, though, that don't really say downtown Joliet. At least to me, they don't. To other people, they do. This is symbolic of what people think of when they hear Joliet. Another one, and I'm not picking on the families that own these buildings. Plaza Hotel, the Crystal Square building, which I believe was just sold. And if you know people that work in that building, there was no air conditioning last year during the middle of the summer, just a lot of problems. And of course, St. Mary's Carmelite Church. I show these buildings for a couple of reasons. One is, most people say, why doesn't the city do something about them? Well, I agree with you, but our options are fairly limited. We can't really go in there and take the building over, short of going out and condemning them, buying them. And then at that point, there's a decision to be made whether you tear it down or you rehabilitate it. Tearing buildings down and starting new is a much more cost-effective way of reestablishing a presence in older downtowns. I know those of you who are historic preservation fans don't like to hear that, but the reality is going in and rehabilitating a building is very expensive. And that's been the challenge that we've had. We really don't chase the owners that own these buildings. We know they'd like to sell them, but I think they need to get more realistic. They need to put a price tag on those buildings because they're really holding everything back by keeping those buildings in their current state and not getting them in the hands of somebody willing to take the building over and do something with it. I think we missed a window of opportunity in the early and mid-2000s when we had a robust real estate community. You saw a lot of buildings like these buildings in the Chicago area getting bought, getting rehabbed, and getting offices on the second and third floor, getting retail on the first floor. And unfortunately, there just wasn't the mechanism there to make that happen here in Joliet. So, you know, we're looking at ways of trying to deal with that. And part of it is working with the ownership to tell them to let it go. I think everybody who owns property, including me right now, that would like to sell, we're waiting for our ship to come in. But the reality is, in this economic market, it's going to be years before the ship comes in. And frankly, we don't have years to wait in downtown Joliet. Of course, Catholic Charities has been in the news lately. The mayor and I have met with Bishop Conlon, talked about where this building goes in the future because we're very concerned. Catholic Charities will most likely be in that building for at least 2 or 3 more years, so we're not going to see any kind of sudden change. And I guess I would say that the reason why they're moving is, and I think I can say this, but the Catholic Church or the Joliet Diocese got a hell of a deal going to Crest Hill. Okay, that one didn't go over so fast. And they did. And I understand the business reason. When the mayor and I met with Bishop Conlon, we said, we understand why you're moving. We understand that going into 2 Rialto Square, for example, or going into this building and trying to rehabilitate it for an office complex for the entire diocesan administrative staff is expensive and it's a challenge. But you know, unfortunately, the decision was made, and now we've got to start dealing with what happens with the redevelopment of this. Got some good news coming, though, and these are real projects. And I know a lot of you have seen this rendering. It's been in the local newspaper, and if you've been following some of the other public meetings, you know that Joliet Junior College is moving forward with a major commitment to its city center campus. And this will not only be the Culinary Arts Department home, but it'll be the home of many departments and many opportunities for our college students to get an education in downtown Joliet. I know some people may not like the architecture. I think when we first started meeting with Joliet Junior College, I had expected to see a very traditional urban style building, brick and windows and a little bit of stone on it. But when they came and explained to us that really what you want this to be is a beacon of learning, a beacon of light, where you've got people coming in for classes 12, 14 hours a day. You want the building to be alive. You want it to show brightly on North Chicago Street. And I think that's why you're seeing so much glass in a facility like this. So, and they sold me on the concept, and I'm a big fan of what I'm seeing. When you go to Chicago, Chicago is great because it's got a diverse architecture. There's just not one set cookie cutter style. You know, maybe having the Tribune Tower throughout the entire downtown might make it a beautiful city, but I think having the diversity of architecture that it has does make it very beautiful. We anxiously await JJC's movement to downtown. We all know that there's still a funding issue. There's a key piece that needs to be put together by the state legislature, and we're hoping that this year, 2012, that happens so the college can start. And of course, we'll probably have to say goodbye to the old Sheraton Hotel once they get their new place built. I don't think we're going to miss that building. What does downtown need? And often when I talk, I ask people, what do you want? And you know, a lot of people talk about a gathering place. And this is a town square concept that we developed a couple of years ago. We're not really pursuing it actively. It certainly involves the county because the county owns a building that would be located right, well, probably right about there. The city owns the south third of it. The city, along with the library, owns the north third of it, and the county with the state's attorney's office owns the middle third of it. So in our negotiations with the county, we've asked for that land to be given to the city as part of a trade of some other property. And we think building a town square, a gathering place for festivals, parades, farmers markets, field trips for students, things like that will give us an opportunity to be able to bring people into one central location, celebrate Joliet, celebrate different cultures, and make this town even more vibrant than what it is. You can't have a better setting. You've got the beautiful library on the north end, the Rialto Theater on the east end, the Crystal Square building, which I'm hoping somebody buys soon and rehabilitates that on the south end, and of course our gorgeous parking deck on the west end. I can't say enough about that. The courts. There's been a lot of discussion about a courthouse, and this is just a rendering, a concept. It's nowhere close to becoming reality. But when we were just noodling around ideas, we came up with this, and this is on the First Midwest property. And I think it was in the paper today that there's some discussion about the county moving forward with an appraisal, a site selection process to see if this might be the best location for a future courthouse. We at the city, mayor and city council, very supportive of the concept. It ties together key assets that the county has. The county already owns the Will County Court Annex, what we call the old EMCO building, and then of course the Will County Courthouse on the right side of the screen. and then the Eagle Building on the south side of Washington, and then the adult detention facility south of the tracks. This gives the county an opportunity to pull all of its key assets together with a safe, secure addition to downtown Joliet, plus with parking right across the street. I want to talk about our favorite project, and that's the Transportation Center project. I know some of you saw some renderings a couple of years ago that probably didn't quite make a lot of sense to you, and fortunately, it didn't make a lot of sense to us either, and we've made some changes. The Transportation Center is intended to bring all forms of public transportation into one facility. What we've tried to do with our project is bring PACE, Metro, Amtrak, and all other forms of public transportation, such as the intercity buses, whether it's Peoria Charter or Illini, Greyhound, and then other forms of transit, such as paratransit service, and then the rental car companies that you can just rent by the hour, IGO, Zip cars, those kinds, bringing them all into one facility. In working on this for a couple of years, trying to figure out how do you get people in and out of a facility, how do you get them on their trains and get them off the trains. The concept that's been approved is moving the boarding platforms that are currently at Union Station to the east side of the diamond. In other words, moving them on the ballpark side of the diamond. That's the north-south Heritage Corridor line. This is the east-west Rock Island line. By moving the boarding platforms to the other side, it opens up two freight lines that go north and south. Right now, the freight lines that come through, whether it's Union Pacific, BNSF, CSX, any of the others, they've got to stop and yield for all of the movements made by the commuter lines. So every hour that a Metro train comes in, the freight trains stop. Very expensive for the UP and the BN to do that. They have been working with us in trying to come up with a concept that will open up, and as you probably don't, you may not have noticed when you've commuted, but there are 4 sets of tracks. We would keep the first two sets of tracks on the west side of the High Line dedicated for freight, put the 2 easternmost sets of tracks available for commuter and for Amtrak. And what we're going to be able to do is have the freight trains be able to move in through downtown Joliet without having to stop. A half-mile-long freight train that has to stop is a very expensive proposition for the BN and the UP. That's why they've committed a lot of resources for this project. What we've done is we've created basically 3 quadrants of development. Existing Union Station, which will remain a vital part of downtown Joliet. Building a bus portal on the southwest quadrant. There's currently a large parking lot in this area. And then on the northeast quadrant, on the ballpark side, creating a rail portal for people to get in and out of downtown Joliet using either Amtrak or Metro. This is a street view of what the bus portal might look like. This is just a placeholder right now. It's a vertical element that we're not sure. We're looking for ideas. So if anybody has a good idea for a vertical element that will set this area off so people when they're coming in on South Chicago Street will see it and be able to know that that's where they want to go, give us some ideas. But this will be about a 4,000 square foot building. It is going to basically be a waiting area for people that want to ride the bus or they've come here by train, they're waiting to take the bus someplace else. Going on the other side, this is the northeast quadrant, looking from the ballpark southwest. This would be about a 10,000 square foot building. That'll be the rail portal. It's a 2-story structure. You'll be able to get onto the Rock Island platform from that. And then there will be a center platform put between tracks 3 and 4 that will service both sides of the tracks. And you'll see that that's a very complicated project. I know a few of you in the room have been at some of the meetings where we've been talking about actually picking up railroad tracks and moving them and spreading them out and putting a platform in between. It's gotten to be a very complicated and expensive project, but the good news is we've got everybody working in the same direction to make it happen. On the left side of the screen is a new parking deck that's being proposed for the 2 surface lots that are currently across the street from the ballpark. That would be a parking structure of about 400 cars. It would be a public-private partnership. We've been talking to some private developers who are interested in trying to build it. The city would own it, but it would be come from a bond issue that we do that would be held by the private investors. This is a street view of the rail portal. small plaza on the outside for people who want to wait outside, and then of course the building that would be servicing the two rail lines. What's going on with downtowns generally? And I know it's a lot of, and I've got a lot of words here, and I'm going to try to summarize it, but this was